All right, so the 2 p.m. outlook from National Hurricane Center has just come across the desk, and not only are formation chances going up for what is now Invest 95L, we've got a new area that I want to bring to your attention, not only because it's a new spot, but what it tells us for the month ahead and pretty much the rest of the hurricane season. When you look at the National Hurricane Center outlook, Invest 95L chances have gone up to 70%. This develops within the next 48 hours, now at an 80% shot within the next week. But then on the left-hand side of your screen, notice a little yellow X off the immediate east coast of Belize and the Yucatan Peninsula, given a 10 for 10 split. 10% over the next 2 days it develops, 10% within the next week as well, and then that famous yellow blip that's there in the Bay of Campeche. Now, the reason I bring this up, number one, we're going to feel impacts down there. This should stay far away from Central Florida and the mainland United States, and models are very, very finicky in terms of if this tries to organize into anything more than a disorganized batch of tropical showers and downpours. Regardless, what this tells me is we've officially hit the point in the hurricane season where we stop watching off the coast of Africa at tropical waves that may try to get their act together in a place called the Main Development Region, the body of water in the deep tropics between the Lesser Antilles and the west coast of Africa. While we'll still see weak waves and we want to pay attention to them, it's closer to home where we have to start watching for these very short notice flare-ups, and the fact that we haven't quite gotten into the most optimal timing for the month of October for conditions to improve out there in the Caribbean, the Gulf, etc. And we already have an area spotted by National Hurricane Center and our computer models tells me we are well on our way. When you take a look at the satellite for this feature right now, definitely not the prettiest thing to look at, but I want to give it credit because we've got some deep thunderstorms, some very deep convection firing over the warm waters of the Caribbean. Believe it or not, in comparison to the rest of the Atlantic, it is, in fact, the Western Caribbean and the Gulf that are the most juiced in terms of our water temperatures and deep ocean heat content. So if anything does try to flare up down there like this thing, it has the capability of becoming something very strong. And with the upcoming passage of our Madden-Julian oscillation, we're still a couple days away from that. Looking at this feature now, while we're still under what's considered the sinking phase of the MJO, tells me that between the mid portions and especially the tail end of October, closer to Halloween, this is going to be a region we want to pay close attention to. And then our friends down there in Honduras, Belize, the Yucatan, and then especially eastern Mexico as this moves west, will want to prepare for some very hardy rainfall totals and the possibility of landslides, mudslides, flash flooding. Now, we will get an update from Climate Prediction Center tomorrow afternoon, but they're also pinpointing this same general area for an enhanced risk at tropical formation as we go between October 15th through the 21st. My general time frame is going to begin on October 12th out through beyond the 21st because that is when our rising motions will be focused. We're expecting the redemption, the resurrection of something called the Central American Gyre during that same time frame, thanks to all the rising motions that will be focused through that area. Where there's rising velocities and you lift the air off the low levels into the high portions of the atmosphere, you build low pressure. Because you're taking air, moving it up, you got to fill in the gap somehow, you're left with lower pressure. As that counterclockwise turning begins to develop, you get that gyre. If you'd like a crash course on what that is, I've got an article written on clickorlando.com, and I'm happy to do a new explainer or even a video breakdown to get you more up to speed on what we'll be tracking over the next 30 some odd days as we get ready for the conclusion of the 2025 hurricane season. This is also interesting as well. Let's move over to my favorite, the tropical probabilities. It's the color-coded graphic that tells you where you need to look for something to try to do a little something in the tropics. And if you look south of Florida near Miami and the Keys, we already have a blip there. Previously tagged by National Hurricane Center, it's what's been producing all the widespread heavy rain for us in Florida, as well as intensifying our surface winds where we can feel them gusting anywhere between 25 to 35 miles an hour. Our models haven't completely lost hope in that, so I'm going to keep an eye on it as it meanders southwest of the Florida Peninsula over the loop current coming out of the Central Gulf, feeding into the Gulf Stream running up our east coast. But then down here, in the Bay of Campeche, notice as our disturbance moves generally west-northwest, the probabilities really go up once it finds its way into the southwest Gulf. And then if I fast forward the clock, let me clear the ink out of the way for y'all. Notice we get another little signal down there as we get into next week. Another possible area trying to flare up. And one thing that's also very neat is remember, the gyre rotates counterclockwise like this. And if I run the clock back just a little bit, watch how those two little color-coded areas, see how they rotate around that circle? You got one that's kind of headed off towards the southeast, and then this one comes up towards the north and northwest. So we're definitely watching for that big old gyre thing to start to come together, and then it's typically when the gyre is at its strongest. Sometimes we get little weak pulses of energy that get stuck up in there, and they get spat out as major systems. Helene and Milton last year, right around this same general time, were a result of the gyre. So definitely check back with us as we continue through the tail portions of the 2025 season together.